The content you are about to watch is meant for thought and consideration. Please be respectful of each other and opinions shared. This is a safe space to express thoughts, ideas, and information. The views and opinions expressed by individuals in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of every speaker of the IMEC organization or its affiliates. P.S. The Mandela Effect is real. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker coming to the stage is named Akronos Mago, and I really mess his name up every time. Lord, forgive me if I slayed his name. Akronos was a programmer and data analyst for 30 years. In 2016, he noticed Mandela Effects. Then he stumbled upon quantum physics and the double slit experiment, which shook his world. Everything he used to consider fact and real had to be reevaluated. He studied everything he could on quantum physics, meditation, and random number generator studies by Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research. These studies fascinated him because they involved data and undeniable quantification of things any sane person would firmly believe impossible, which we know around the community here, impossible is not a word we use very often, is it? On his journey to figure it all out, he looked into Rupert Sheldrake's morphic resonance, same concept as the 100th monkey, and Carl Jung's collective consciousness. All this brought him finally for consciousness study. In early 2018, he created the ThetaStream website to test his own abilities to affect a random number generator. Later that year, a friend recommended ayahuasca to further expand his mind. His whole life, he had avoided experimenting with drugs, but this seemed synchronistic. It was during this ayahuasca experience he had the epiphany that he should enhance the ThetaStream to be a tool everyone can use to verify whether their mind can affect reality. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I present to the stage Mr. Akronos Mago.
Hello, I am Akronos Mago. I have been a computer programmer and database expert for over 30 years. My life's work has been about logic, science, and analyzing data. In 2016, I experienced my first Mandela Effect. Frankly, it shook me to the core. I'm rather OCD about anything I don't understand, so I obsessed about learning about quantum mechanics, the double slit experiment, which proves that simply by observing something, it can change from a wave to a particle, and then meditation, consciousness studies, and much more. Quantum mechanics proved to me that reality is not as stable as we think. Mandela Effects shows that history is malleable. This video shows the most interesting things I learned over the last 4 years, and how that inspired me to create the ThetaStream app, which quantifies how strange and powerful the human mind really is. At first, I researched and collected as many Mandela Effects as I could, and I quizzed family and friends to see if I was the only one. I found I'm not alone. So much so that now we have an international conference talking about these strange effects that apparently are changing history. Next, I wanted to know how this is happening and why. While trying to find answers to what causes the Mandela Effect, I stumbled across the 100th monkey effect. Now, in 1936, Carl Jung wrote something about the collective unconsciousness, which then in 1952 and 58, on a Japanese island, some scientists discovered monkeys that had a very strange 100th monkey effect. And later, Rupert Sheldrake wrote on the morphic resonance, but all of these things have the same basic concept, and that is that there's a consciousness aspect to understanding and basic knowledge. Now, the monkeys were on this one island, and the scientists decided to do a test where they threw some mangoes in the sand on the beach. One of the female monkeys picked up one of the mangoes, washed it off in the ocean, and then ate it and discovered that not only got the sand off, but made the mango taste better with a little bit of salt on it. Soon, several other monkeys started copying that one monkey until the entire tribe of monkeys on that one island started doing it. And then something very fascinating happened. Monkeys on other nearby islands started doing the same thing. Now, of course, no monkey stole a boat and took off to a different island and told the other monkeys, hey, you gotta try this. Mangoes taste way better when you wash them off with seawater. So what was causing this? Scientists have been able to reproduce this with humans in multiple studies. In Australia, they got a picture with all the faces in it, large, small faces inside of faces, and it was a very complex picture, and they showed it to some people, and they said, how many faces do you see? And the average person could only find 6 to 10. And then they showed in England on a closed cable BBC channel somebody showing where all the faces were, and then an hour later in Australia they brought in this queue of volunteers. They said, show us faces, and then those people were able to see the majority of the faces. How did that happen? How did people consciously know where the faces were? Cosmic consciousness, or collective unconscious. What is the human mind really capable of? Over the last 25 years, placebos have become more effective. A placebo is generally a sugar pill or some other inert substance that should not really affect the human body. In 1996, pain medication being developed was found on average to be only 27% more effective than placebos. By 2013, that difference had shrunk to just 9%. In the last decade, more than 90% of painkillers developed in the United States have failed to show any significant improvement over placebos in the final stages of clinical trials. Now, this can be interpreted in many different ways. I highly doubt our sugar pills have become more effective, which leaves me to believe the human mind has become more powerful over the last 25 years, and especially in the last 7 years. We are more capable of taking a placebo and feeling better. The Stanford Research Institute was co-founded by physicist Russell Targ and funded by the CIA in the 70s and 80s. They were doing what is called remote viewing, which is the ability for a person to see a location far away in great detail. Russell Targ says this ability can be honed with practice. Now, it's been proven that random number generators can be affected by the mind. In fact, RNGs spike every time a major incident happens, like a terrorist attack or natural catastrophe. Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research did studies from 1979 to 2007 and were able to definitively prove average people could affect RNGs in ways that far exceeded any possibility of accident or fluke. Becoming enlightened is a process that is speeding up. In the 60s, it used to take 20 years. People would say they needed to go to India, sit with a guru, study for 10 years, come back, study more for another 10 years. Some experimented with LSD. Then in the 80s, it became a 10-year process. They'd still fly over to India or Tibet and sit with monks and become more in tune with nature. And then in the 2000s, it became a 5-year process, and often they didn't even have to fly out of the country. And in 2012, it seemed to really start speeding up to where it could be a 2-year process. In 2017, I saw somebody spontaneously become enlightened over a period of 2.5 minutes while watching a full solar eclipse. It's amazing. Now people are becoming enlightened within a month sometimes. It's really incredible. So something is speeding up our evolution of our mental capabilities. This indicated to me that something major is going on with humanity right now. I don't think it is just because the Hadron Collider is smashing particles. I think humanity is evolving, or at least something has happened which allows humanity to tap into new realms of potential. What would happen if people had an easy way they could test their ability to mentally do these feats? You can practice different methods to see what works best. You can hone your skill in mentally affecting reality. For is not the ability to affect a random number generator the essence of changing reality? With these Princeton experiments, often people find they do better the first and second time that they try these challenges. After that, they often start doubting their own abilities or second guessing, and then of course their scores falter. However, if they continue and believe they can improve, then consistently they do improve. That's part of the placebo effect, maybe, or maybe it's just actual training themselves. During the Princeton testing, they discovered that people who meditate regularly consistently had higher scores than people who don't. Those who meditate have a better ability to clear their mind and focus. Meditation has been shown to have far-reaching effects. In fact, in the 70s and 80s, studies proved that if 1% of the population was working together using transcendental meditation methods, which were originally outlined by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, the crime rate would lower by over 20%. 9 peer-reviewed articles comprising 14 studies have been published that support this effect. The Maharishi effect was found to be even greater when the advanced TM Sati program was introduced, with observations suggesting that just the square root of 1% of the population could increase harmony and improve diverse measures of the quality of life in society, including the reduction of crime rate. Frankly, I'm not certain why this is happening, but I want to help with quantifying how much this is happening. That is why I created ThetaStream. ThetaStream is based on the research of Dean Radin at Princeton, and it generates 1,000 random numbers per second. As of midnight last night, our servers generated over 40 billion random numbers. The ThetaStream number generation randomness is within 1/10,000th of 1%. Why did I create ThetaStream? Well, Mandela Effects are very strange and yet undeniable. There's enough evidence now that I have no doubt Mandela Effects show that something has changed in history. And meditation has proven that we can have a great effect on a large population with a very few number of people meditating. These are great, but I'm a database guy. I'm a computer programmer. I like something that's quantifiable, so I created ThetaStream because it is quantifiable. It is a method that you can use to quantify whether you have the ability to affect a random number generator, and then hone your skills and verify that you're getting better at it. You can do it multiple times, keep notes of what works, what doesn't, until you become more and more effective at affecting a random number generator. And frankly, if you can affect a random number generator, then you are affecting reality, in which case we should be able to then use that skill to affect reality in more meaningful ways. Why just leave it to random number generators? Why not affect reality in a different way, like the Tibetan monks do? So ThetaStream started Theta events, where a coordinator can set up an event, have a concept, put in motivational lines, and then those will show on the screen. Big bubbles will slowly raise in the screen if positive numbers are coming up, and that will allow people to all focus on the same concepts at the same time, and hopefully we can affect real change in the real world. Here on the ThetaStream dashboard, you can see the random number generator in real time. If you mouse over, it will actually tell you what the average number is during that 1 second. It's interesting when sometimes you see spikes that go off the chart. So for a demonstration on intuition training, you could choose between the easy, intuitive, awoke, or wizard. And that is basically how many balls you're going to choose from, and one of them is randomly chosen by the computer. So there's a 50-50 chance to guess correct, and if you use your intuition, hopefully you'll exceed 50%. I'm going to intuit. I didn't trust my judgment right. It's interesting how logically you would think there is no way that I could intuit what a computer server in Arizona has chosen as the correct ball. But if you do it often enough, you start to get a feeling for it. I run tests and verified that it is still 50-50 chance on each ball. I ran 100,000 iterations, and it turns out to be like 49.8 versus 50.02. And I made it so you can see the stats if you want. Right now I'm at 75%, but I've only chosen 4 times. Now I'm at 60%. On some of the intuition training, in fact, I'm going to quit now. And then it tells you your information. While recording video. You can save a note for future reference. And if you look at the analytics, it automatically updates your analytics immediately. And in the comparative analysis, below shows each person's average score for each challenge level. It also shows their highest single session. Only scores with 5 or more guesses are included. So if somebody did only 1 guess, then it's not even going to count that in this these scores down here. So for last week, I've only done it once this week, and now I'm at 60%. These are sortable, by the way. So if I want to say, okay, let's look at who got the most last week. Well, Juniper Moon did the most. They did 163 guesses on the 1 out of 3 challenge, and 60 guesses on the 1 out of 2 challenge, and got a 55%. That's pretty good. Last month, I didn't do a lot. I did 15 guesses, got 10 correct. Brownie King did good. And down here, Brownie King on the 1 out of 3 got 7 correct out of 13 guesses. That's 53.8% when the normal would have been 33%. That's really phenomenal. Free Agent did extremely well too, with 6 guesses correct out of 13. 46.2% versus the normal 33. That's just remarkable. And then you can check all time scores as well. I Am Me got 13 out of 17 correct for a 76.5% average amount correct. That's just incredible. You can also choose to sort by max percent. This person, GW Baker, I'm not sure how many guesses they did in that session, but it must have been 5 or more guesses, and they had 100% accuracy. Overall, they're at 53%. You can sort almost all of these, like total guesses. If you click it a second time, it changes the order from ascending to descending and vice versa. White Raven is at 59% on the easy 1 of 2. His best was 75%. He's done it a lot. The Big 60 Challenge is called that because it lasts only 60 seconds. Every second, a score is made between 0 and 200, and that goes to either the high or the low. You decide at the beginning, are you hoping for high numbers or are you hoping for low numbers? And every second it checks the random numbers that are generated on our server in Arizona, and it rates them based on how many numbers are in the top 1%, top 10%, top 50%, and what the sum is of all the numbers that were generated during that 1 second. For example, in a given second, it might be that the low side won for the most numbers in the top 1% and top 10%, but the high side had the most numbers in the top 50% and the sum of all numbers, in which case they would both get a score based on those amounts. At the end of 60 seconds, you see the tally of all the seconds and the final score, and it determines who is the winner, you or randomness. It also shows you how many seconds were perfect, meaning they won in all categories, top 1%, top 10%, top 50%, and the sum of all. And then it shows you also what a random minute was an hour ago, 2 hours, and 3 hours ago, so you can see for comparison how you scored versus random for random minutes over the last 3 hours. Here we show the progress chart to see if the total for 60 seconds exceeded what would be normal and randomly. You can choose to see more details, such as what were the 10 most frequently generated numbers. So if you were focusing on a single number and then you see it there, then you know you did very well. It also shows you what the breakdown was on scores on a second-by-second basis, including which ones were perfect seconds and which ones had ties, like tying for 1%. So you have all this data, and you can actually think, well, at the beginning, I know I was doing very well, and then I see at the beginning 4 seconds where I had perfect seconds. So that was a demonstration of the Big 60 Challenge, and you can write a note after each one of your challenges so that later on when you're reviewing, you could maybe get a better idea of why you did good or not so good. Such as for this note, I just put, I was doing a video. You might want to put in your notes things like, just finished a meditation, or I was listening to binaural beats, or I've had 3 cups of coffee today. In the manifest number competition, you choose whichever number you want. You could choose a positive number or a negative number. I'm choosing a positive number, 369 this time. And it uses our regular random number generator, which is always going to be between negative 500 and positive 500, excluding 0. Here I am focusing on the number 369, and we have a way of saying I want to clear the screen and just see my number. Because some of our people said that made it easier for them to concentrate when they don't see a graph or a gauge that's slowly moving along. They just want to meditate and focus on their number. And this does show you, though, if you want, you can watch the gauge and see how quickly your numbers are accumulating as you're focusing on this 369 or whatever number you chose. And the goal is to generate it in less than 50 seconds if you're doing it 50 times, since on average, randomly, 1,000 numbers generated that has a range of 1,000, you should get 1 number per second. Well, this time it generated 50 numbers in 49 seconds, a little better than average, which was probably because I was concentrating on the video as I was doing this. And it shows if you exceeded the top 1%, top 10%, 50% and some as well. And again, you can always write a note after every session that you do. We also have the ability to tweet. So if you are happy with your score and you want to tweet it to the world, you can. And then people can click on it and see the details of your score, and it will pop into this page without showing the random number counts, but it will show them the total of your score for that particular round. This does show the exact millisecond that each of the numbers were generated, and that is how the Manifest Number Challenge works. Note, if you try several times and find you are consistently wrong, do not get discouraged. That indicates your intuition is strong, but you are reading it opposite to what is correct. For example, if you were flipping a coin and guessing it would be heads or tails, you should be right about 50% of the time. If you flipped it 20 times and every time you guessed wrong, that is equally as unlikely if every time you guessed correct. In ThetaStream, you can do the intuition training as often as you want until you find out what works best for you. Every skill can be improved with practice. ThetaStream provides the testing methods and feedback that people need to hone their skills and track the results. Analytic reports are given showing your past history as well as comparisons to other streamers on the ThetaStream site. After each challenge, you are given the option to write a note. That way you can track what works best for you. For example, you can note that you just finished meditation, or did while listening to binaural beats, or even that you just finished your second cup of coffee. This is the dashboard of ThetaStream. From here you can access all the different challenges. We go to the Big 60 challenge and go to the Review Analytics. Now here you see My Personal Analytics. It only shows you your personal analytics at the top. And I had a really bad last month. I don't want you to think all my scores are good. I only won 1 out of 5 times, 20%. Out of the last 10, I only won 40%. But the last couple months have been pretty rough, and I've been more focused on intuition training. My overall sessions, though, are pretty good. 37 out of 62, or 59%. Now, until my recent unlucky streak of losing 4 out of the last 5, my Big 60 challenges, I was at a winning streak of 36 out of 57. That's 63%. And the probability of randomly guessing that many times correct is only 3.14%. Even with my current ratio of 37 correct out of 62 correct, the percentage is, or 37 out of 62, the correct percentage is 59.68. And the odds of randomly occurring that, well, let's look that up. Number of 6, 62 and 37. It's the same as flipping a coin. You say at least 37 heads, that would be 8.09% chance of happening if you were just flipping a coin. You can keep notes of what you did previously. During the May contest, there were only 4 people who entered, and they did it only a total of 11 times. And only one of those 11 times did the person not win. That's phenomenal. If 10 out of 11 times something is won, number of flips, 10 times, that's a 0.59% chance likelihood if you were just flipping a coin. But during a contest where people are trying to win money to see who had the best ability of manifesting high score, 10 out of 11 times they beat randomness. This also tracks all the scores over the last 30 days. And you can see that Peaceful One won 5 out of 5 times. Preacher won 3 out of 3 times. Ray S 1 out of 1. Beaker 4 out of 2. And you can see I only won 1 time out of 5. It also shows the top 40 Theta streamers since the beginning. These are sortable if you click on them. Beaker 66 had 15 sessions and won 9 times. That's very impressive. Now let's go over to intuition training. Again, you can review the analytics. And at the top, it shows your personal analytics. I'm quite pleased with my easy, the 1 of 2 when you're picking between 2 different balls. Total guesses, 223 guesses, and I was right 136 times. 61% of the time I've been correct. The 1 out of 3 balls, I've been correct 36% out of 33, which is not that great, but it's better than average. My max percent was 80%. On one day, I was really in the groove. 125 total guesses, was correct 45, 15 sessions. During the May contest, here's who won. But let's go down and look at last week. I find it very interesting to look at my previous week scores compared to my previous month scores compared to all-time scores and where everybody's ranking. We look at, actually let's go back to last week. I don't know who this person named Jay is, but he did phenomenally bad on the guessing 1 of 2. The average is 50%, and he did 17 guesses and got only 2 correct. Now, if we go back over here, we say 17 guesses, at most 2 correct. That is a 0.12% likelihood. So that's really amazing that he was guessing the opposite that often. On his 1 out of 3, when he was guessing between 1 of 3 balls, he also was not doing that great. He did less than the normal. But on his guessing 1 out of 4 balls, he got 30% correct. So for him, guessing 1 out of 4 was actually easier for him than guessing 1 out of 3 balls. Last month, I only did 10 guesses, but I got 70% correct. Looking at your My History chart takes you to this page, and this chart, the darker lines are life events that you can track. Like this life event was when I took ayahuasca. This is when I increased my meditation practices. If you want to hone in, you can go like this, and it will allow you to zoom in and look at your scores closer. So these were my big 60 scores when I was very active. And this is how my manifest number scores have been acting. It's a great way to track how your scores are in conjunction with dates and times and events in your life. The Big 60 Challenge is probably the best way to determine if your mind is able to affect a random number generator. If you do the challenge once and win, it very well could just be luck. If you do the challenge 10 times and win the majority of times, however, then it'll be very hard for somebody to say it's just luck. When I first started testing this challenge on myself, I was surprised at how often I won. So I added a feature after each challenge where it shows 3 random minutes over the last 3 hours and what their scores would have been. and it definitely shows the randomness factor. In May, we had a contest, and one contestant, won 5 out of 5 times that they did this challenge. Another contestant won 3 out of 3 times. The odds of winning 5 out of 5 times is only 3.13%. It's like throwing 5 coins up in the air and having them land on the ground, and all 5 coins are heads. Another way to test your mental ability is the ThetaStream intuition training. This was based on the Stanford Research Institute's training program. There are 4 different difficulty levels. You choose whether to go easy to very difficult. On the easy level, there are 2 balls, and on the toughest level, there are 6 balls. Each time, a ball will be chosen randomly, and you guess which one was chosen solely by using your intuition. At the end of the set, it will tell you how many you chose correctly and what your percentage correct is. Many people have been trying the intuition training, and it is surprising, even to them, how often they are correct. If a person is right 75% of the time, when randomly they should be right only 50% of the time, and they are consistent in that, then that is truly remarkable. For example, yesterday I had 4 out of 4 intuition guesses correct. This is a challenge where each guess only has a 50% chance of being right. Then I felt that getting a 5th in a row would be too much. And on the next one, I chose incorrectly, thus getting what my mind expected and felt comfortable with. Now 80% correct is still great, but 5 out of 5 in my mind at that moment seemed unreasonable. I believe one of our greatest challenges is to redefine what is normal during these times of Mandela Effects and great change. As the maker of ThetaStream, I initially built these tools to hone my own mental abilities. The long-term goal, however, is to use ThetaStream to positively affect the world. I opened up ThetaStream to the public, completely free. In ThetaStream, we can set up Theta events where multiple people can all focus on one goal. This has been proven to work with meditation groups around the world for lowering crime. My hope is ThetaStream will become a free public space where brilliant people can get together to make the world a better place. First honing their mental powers, then using those powers for good. On Wednesday night, we'll have a 30-minute Theta event starting at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Join us to see how much effect we can have. See details in the description. In honor of the Mandela Effect Conference, ThetaStream is having 6 contests in 3 categories this week. Signing up is free and only requires an email address. Pick a login name, which will be the name seen on the scoreboards. At the end of the conference, I will be giving out 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place prizes for the 6 different contests. First contest is the Big 60 Challenge. Highest score wins. Second contest is manifest the number 100 times. Highest score, which is based on how fast you manifest mostly, wins. Plus, for all 4 challenge levels in the intuition training, there will be prizes. For each contest, there will be a 1st place prize of $40, 2nd place prize of $20, and a 3rd place prize of $10. All contests end Thursday night at midnight Pacific Time. You can win in multiple categories, but only place once per contest. For example, you can win 3rd place in Intuition Easy level and 1st place in Intuition Wizard level, but if you have the 3 highest scores in the Manifest the Number 100 times, you only win the 1st place prize. But you do get bragging rights. Prizes will be sent to the winners as electronic gift cards, winner's choice, whether they want Amazon gift card or Google Play Store gift cards. Good luck, everyone. In summary, I don't know what is causing the Mandela effects, but I do know they are real. I'm not sure what consciousness exactly is, but I know it doesn't solely reside in the gray matter between our ears. With ThetaStream, we can prove our minds are capable of affecting reality. It is quantifiable. With practice, we can improve our abilities. That is proven also. Join me and let's hone our minds and craft a better reality.
And welcome back. So good to see everybody. And I'm so glad that the turnout is so excellent. I love the questions coming through the chat. So I guess we've got all of us here. Just make sure. I guess I can't tell for sure, but hopefully we do. So Akronos, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Excellent. Okay. This is the first time okay. There's a delay on my other viewer. I'm going to go ahead and start with a question for you. This is from Feminine. And I know you were active in the chat, Akronos, but sometimes people aren't going through the chat. And so for the future, and so bear with me if I repeat some of the things you've already responded to. You'll get a chance now to say it with your own voice, and that's better. So this is from Feminine, and she asks, how do you see the role of the soul as we're going toward the neurolace and transhumanism? So that's this is a question. I don't know if it came through previously or if you want to address that at all, but if you do, that would be awesome. So much appreciated.
Transhumanism. It's actually a fascinating topic and something that a couple of my friends and I talk about every once in a while. People having strong opinions one way or the other.
And can you do something with your mic? I don't know what's going on with the microphone.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
Really, microphone's not good? All right, let me try switching to something different. 1 second.
I had some problems with my microphone, so, but I loved your talk. Love all the graphs. That was cool. Okay, go ahead and say something.
All right, testing 1, 2, 3.
Oh, perfect. Yes.
Okay, good.
Yay.
All right.
We didn't. So did you lose your train of thought? Okay, good. Yeah.
Transhumanism. For those that don't know about transhumanism, it's basically utilizing technology to enhance the body's capability of doing lots of different things. Some people use transhumanism by putting a magnet in their hand so that they can then trigger doors that require magnetics to open. Others use transhumanism to give themselves additional eyesight capabilities, such as being able to see infrared. So if the question is, can transhumanism be used for increasing consciousness? Ooh, well, yes and no. Is it the best way? Totally different conversation. Is it a possible way? Sure, probably. Same as marijuana. You know, some people use marijuana for enhancing their ability to reach consciousness. Others would say that they're just using it to quiet their mind so they're not thinking about their accounting problems and their job problems. And that helps them get better silence in their mind, and then they're able to connect better with humanity and the world. Transhumanism, or using technology to do similar, is quite possible. When I first got into meditation, I used Muse, which was a nice piece of equipment. I would put it across my forehead, and it would give you neurofeedback. Neurofeedback is the same as biofeedback, except it involves feedback specifically from your brain. So with neurofeedback, it would tell you if you got to a theta wave state where your brain was so relaxed and in the right hertz that you were able to almost be at that DMT space. I found it very effective. It helped me get over my hump of learning how to meditate. Once I did it for 6 months, though, then it actually became a hindrance, because I found that I would pay more attention to the Muse and its responses than to actually the meditation process. So then I stopped using it.
I want to just take you back to the question, and this is about the role of the soul as it relates to transhumanism. So do you have any thoughts on that? Like, I don't know if you have thoughts on
soul in transhumanism. I'm not sure. To be honest, I don't know. I would say that question should be reversed. What is the role of transhumanism in accessing the soul? Not as what is the role of the soul in accessing or in transhumanism?
So you think transhumanism is an access portal, or is running the show? It would get us to the soul. It's not the soul running the show. Is that what you'd say? Or
I would say that some people could use transhumanism to help them access their higher self, but that wouldn't be the normal recommended methodology. But if it works for them, go for it. Back to placebo effects. If they think that the transhumanism widget that they're using helps them with accessing their soul or their higher self, if that works for them, great.
I don't think that's where I don't know where this question is coming from, but my take on it would be, is there like a role of the soul behind all of this somewhere? Is there something going on that we can't see that's running the show a little bit beyond our general awareness? And what might that be? And what effect might that be having on all of this? So it's kind of like, usually when we talk about the soul, it's a little bit like what Regina Meredith was talking about, that it's our guides, our high self, our future self, what have you. But there's something going on that we may not be aware of, but it's having an effect. So how would there be any connection that you could see there? And it's okay to say, like, I have no idea.
I have no idea. I'm going to have to pass on that.
Okay, pass. Okay, cool. Let's go to a completely different direction. Let's go where you're comfortable, hopefully. Do you think we're in a simulation? Oh, this is Lucky Bulger. Do you think we are in a simulation within a simulation, and our own quantum computers are using up too much CPU from the base simulation, thus causing glitches in the matrix? Purely technical question. So.
Wonderful question. I obviously don't know anything for a certainty. I would say that's a very possible scenario, but there's no way I could say yes or no. I'd love to hear you and Chris's opinion on that one.
Yeah, throw it back. Okay, Chris, you're up.
Yeah, I feel that we are with a simulation within a simulation, or a hologram within a hologram. I believe that we are the human DNA form that we're in is technically software. I call it hard light DNA, hard light human DNA. Planets are hard light DNA. Anything that has a solid or a container can have a consciousness, and that we are experiencing and learning from this form that we're in. So to answer the question is yes, I believe, my personal feeling is that we are in having a holographic experience right now that seems so real. It seems so real. In fact, people will kind of fight to the death saying that it's not real. So that's my opinion of it. So to answer the question simply, yes, that's what I feel.
And I like that levels and levels of consciousness idea also. I think it comes up, I think we were talking about it with the Mayan thing and the research of the 9th waves and so forth. And there are different levels of consciousness clearly that are operating. So my take on the simulation is, what is it simulating and who's doing the simulating? So for me, I really have to take that farther. It's like saying I'm done when you get the answer is 42 and what are the units? And it's kind of like, well, wait a minute. Did we really get are we asking the question at the right level? That's just my take on it. So I think it's a good question, but let's go all the way and take it as far as we can. And that brings up a really good question from the Rip on Rabbit Hole. I think you addressed it in the chat, but this was, have you ever compared these analytics to the Schumann resonance?
No, I haven't. And I answered in the chat, that's a great idea, and I'll have to build some analytics that will do just that, because I love the idea. I check the Schumann resonance at least every other day, especially when I feel amazingly tired for no apparent reason, and then I check the Schumann resonance, and sure enough, we're in the middle of a spike.
Right.
So I do recognize the Schumann resonance has major impact on all of us. I haven't put that into a direct correlation or analysis with the random number generator data, but I will put that on my to-do list.
That was Rip on Rabbit Hole, and just want to credit the question, but also to riff off of that, at the beginning of your talk, you talked about Rupert Sheldrake. He is fabulous at making sure that we look at things that most scientists never look at. They don't look at the cycle of the moon. They don't look at things like that. And he said their experiments, it's like they're conducting these experiments and ignoring what's going on. Now he was a plant biologist. So when he looked at things and he saw clearly if you repeat this experiment, you're not going to get the same results unless you line it up with the same cycle of the moon. Then you might begin to start seeing some of the same results. And I'm wondering if you've looked at things besides, there's the Schumann resonance, cycles of the moon, all kinds of things. Is there anything yet that you've looked at? And this is just my question. Curious. I'd love to know. And then if you haven't, what would you, besides the Schumann resonance, what might you like to look into?
Boy, I haven't yet. That's a fantastic question. And yeah, I would really like to start doing that. It'd be fascinating to put a chart where you have a wave of what is the moon cycles and what are the scores as they are adjusted with the moon cycles. That would be a really interesting project.
Anything you might, do you have an expectation of what kind of results this is a great opportunity for you to just take a general guess. What might you expect to see? Not a real hypothesis, but the beginning of formulating one.
You know what? It is so difficult to say what the results would be, because here's my biggest concern about that. I think it could have a really interesting impact. Let's say it could have a 10% impact based on the phase of the moon. It could have, so I'm going to state that as a fake, oh, we believe it is a 10% impact.
Right.
If, though, the people that are doing the test think that it will have a 50% impact, then their placebo effect could make it have a 50% impact. And they would say, oh, look, the moon has a 50% impact, when in reality it's because people love to give credence to something else's ability to impact their effect on reality. That's why there was religion, and that's why placebos work, because they like to say, this pill is more powerful than I am. And if I take this pill, then this healing will happen. Or if I pray to this God, then this thing will happen. But what if it's all within your own abilities? What if you're doing it all, but because you're saying, okay, I'm doing this experiment to see, does the moon have a greater impact? Then that could make you, oh yeah, I want the moon to have a greater impact, so I will do better scoring. So it would have to definitely be a blind study where the participants did not know that we were going to be comparing it to the moon rhythms or the Schumann resonance or whatnot. We'd have to do a lot of blind studies to get the analysis in, which is one of the reasons I want to do these contests, just to get more data. I want to have lots of data from all the people that are in the contest, because they want to see how they do and how they can compare, and how, whether they can win a little bit of money. That's great. But then we can do some analysis later on to say, wow, isn't it fascinating that more people got high scores at 6 a.m. in the morning than the people who got high scores at 3 p.m. in the day? That's the kind of analysis that we could do later once we get more data.
We've got another question from Wolfkey74 Creations, Lisa. And the question is, how does this data tie to the Mandela effect? And what does it prove?
Great question, Lisa. The Mandela effect led me to random number generation and the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research. It led me to that, and that's something that's quantifiable. The Mandela effect is undeniable, but it is very hard to quantify it. So to answer your question, what does it prove? I don't know if there's any direct correlation. I don't think there's any direct correlation of proof on the quantifying of the random number generations of the mind with the Mandela effect, or maybe that's a direct correlation, and it proves that our mind is able to affect reality. So I can't tell you. It either proves everything or it's totally coincidence that they're both happening at the same time.
So how might you tell the difference? Or that's something to think about, I guess.
Well, actually, I have an answer for that one. Okay, on Wednesday we're going to have a Theta event, and Theta events are where we have group like meditations. You can call them meditations or prayer groups or just a Theta event where multiple people come and they all think about the same thing, trying to manifest that thing into reality. Such as when the volcanoes were going off in Hawaii, we had a little Theta event to, okay, let's try to make it rain on the volcano. Let's try to slow down the lava, that type of thing. And so on Wednesday, we're going to have a Theta event, and the Theta event actually checks the random number generator to see if there's new spikes of numbers going higher than usual, and it gives you a visual indication during that of bubbles slowly raising up, and the size of the bubbles are larger if there's a whole lot of positive numbers. So it gives you an immediate positive visual feedback during the thing, as well as has text go across the screen about what the Theta event is. So the concept is, if the Mandela effect is because a lot of minds are thinking a thought, then maybe we can utilize that to think positive thoughts and create positive change. And that is the kind of thing I would love to do in large numbers with lots of people to see if we can make positive change. We do from minor, simple things, that would be very, very easy to quantify, such as, hey, let's make it rain in Lodi, California. It's a sunny day there. Let's see if in a half hour we can generate enough clouds that it rains when the weatherman says it's not going to rain for the next 4 days. That would be a very simple, quantifiable, not a guarantee, but a quantifiable type thing. And then we can do more important events like Wednesday night I want to dedicate it to Black Lives Matter. Let's try to fix some of the unrest in the United States right now. Let's lower the police brutality. Let's do something really meaningful on Wednesday night and start at 6 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. Pacific time, log into ThetaStream, go to the Theta events, you'll see the bubbles rising, and let's see if we can get some positivity going on in this world right now.
Excellent. We've got another question from the Ripon Rabbit Hole, and this is for you, if you're willing, to share your ayahuasca story.
Oh. Yeah, okay. I did. Oh, it was interesting. First off, ayahuasca is still, for some reason, it's illegal in America. So when you find a place that's doing the ayahuasca, it's kind of secret and hush hush, and they don't tell you where you're going until the last minute. I ended up going to a place in Southern California. It was beautiful. It was up at the top of a mountain. And the person had worked out a deal with a Girl Scout lodge. So we had 34 people show up to this Girl Scout lodge. And it was a huge lodge, a single building. They had the men sleep on one side, the women sleep on the other side. They had two shamans that flew in from Colombia. They didn't speak a word of English. They had their whole feathered garb and everything. They had their drums. It was simply one of the most life-changing events I've ever done. The lady that was putting it on said that it was the most people she ever had. And it was a 2-night event where we're not supposed to eat after 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so that you're fasting, you're doing a little fast, and the medicine takes better effect that night. Well, the next morning, I think 8 people left because ayahuasca is not a fun party thing. It is not a let's experiment with drugs thing. And apparently 8 of the people that showed up were there for a new drug experience. And ayahuasca mama spanks your ass and says no. And all they got was misery, and they left the next morning, which was great. Then you just have a bunch of positive-minded people left over. The first night, I had amazing visual hallucinations, lots of geometric shapes, lots of things coming down out of the ceiling as geometric shapes and faces. I went there with purpose. I went there with 3 ideas that I wanted to ask and get results for. And the next day, I thought, well, that was really interesting, but I didn't get any of my answers. And the purging is not enjoyable. It's not, this is not something you do for fun. This is something you do for a spiritual awakening. The purging is a lot of vomiting and the actual, one of the things that a lot of people don't know about the ayahuasca is with the ayahuasca, which is 2 different plants from South America, it actually has a very serious chemical effect on your body, which gives you a chemical purge as well. It gets rid of all sorts of horrible things in your body. So the purging is actually great on a physical, hey, I just got rid of a lot of terrible things in my body. And on a spiritual level, it also helps open you up, which is a whole different thing and very amazing. The person I was with, she had, the next day she was in total euphoria of, hey, I feel connected to the world. I feel like life is love and love is everywhere. That's wonderful. And I just felt, wow, this was neat, but I didn't get what I was coming here for. So hopefully the second night. The second night, I did a little rapé with the ayahuasca. I did too much because somebody said, hey, do it this way, and I did it that way, and it didn't work out so well. So I told the shaman, give me a half dose of the ayahuasca. So they gave me a half dose, and I ended up tripping out. I was so sick, and I was having so many hallucinations, and it was, at one point somebody comes and taps me on my foot and says, hey, it's time for you to come up and do this one part of the ceremony. And I looked over and I see this samurai warrior in black and white, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? You know, no, I need another hour before I can stand up. So the second night, again, you know, I'm having these great hallucinations, but none of my answers. And it was a little bit terrifying. And then the purge starts happening, third one for the night, even though I had only a half dose. And I remember asking myself, ayahuasca mother, why? I don't want another purge. I'm not getting anything out of this. Why on earth are you making me suffer so much? And for the first time, I got a direct answer. And ayahuasca mother said, you came here for 3 important questions. You want answers. You need to prove that you're not going to shy away from a little bit of pain. You're not going to shy away from a little discomfort. If you want your answers, you have to prove that you're worthy. So I like, okay, all right, I'll do my purge. I'll do my third purge. And then I'm laying there, I'm like, oh, okay, but I didn't say when. I'll do it in a few minutes. I'll do it in a few minutes. And the shaman is doing this song and he's warbling, which, by the way, the shamans could do this warble where it's one guy and it sounds like it's 3 different guys. He's doing this strange thing with his voice, and the female shaman is doing something similar. So it sounds like there's 2 females and 3 males doing this weird song. And it's like the warble is calling up the bile in your stomach to make you purge. And I feel so sick. And I'm like, give me a second sign. Give me a second sign. And then this huge, the largest one of the assistants there, and they all wore white, he ends up crawling into the cot that's next to me because the guy had left the night before, and placing a big crystal on the shelf right next to my head. And I'm like, okay, well, that's the sign. And that is so bizarre, but there's the sign. I asked for it, and literally 3 seconds later, I look over and this guy's crawling into the bed next to me, not in my bed, but the one next to me, and putting this giant crystal next to my head. Like, okay, so I get up, walk out, I purge, which turned out to be a very minor purge. I just belched, it ain't even vomit. And then I got my answers. And it was just amazing. I got 2 of my 3 answers, and I was told to get the 3rd answer, I just had to do one thing, which was actually, which was release ThetaStream and get it out on the App Store and get people using ThetaStream. And that was my mission. So I'm sad to say that was 2 August ago. That was August 2018. And I'm finally just now getting that finished. But that was one of the quests that I was told by Ayahuasca Mother that I had to do. So I'm doing that so I can get my 3rd answer.
That's a great story. Thank you for sharing it. And I know it's so personal, but I love the way you point out, as Regina was mentioning, that when you go for something quick and easy, you don't necessarily get the great, lasting, deeper answers that we sometimes crave. I've got a question for you having to do with this whole ThetaStream. And thank you for explaining how this came up. And 2 years is pretty fast when you think of the scale and magnitude of what this might be capable of doing. But I'd love to know, how is this ThetaStream practice that you've been doing as you play with it and tinker around and experience it yourself, how has that been benefiting you personally in any ways that you'd care to share?
I find that it's fascinating that my results are what I expect and want them to be. And they're very consistent that way. Like I was just during an hour ago, while my video was playing on the Mandela Effect thing, I decided to do a big 60 contest because I wanted to test out it on the phone. And it starts just extremely high score. I got like a 1500 score going in the first 20 seconds. And I'm like, that's great. And I thought, holy crap, everybody's going to think I'm a cheater if I'm in the first place. That would be horrible. That would be so bad. And it goes up to 1700. I'm like, I'm focused. This is good. But oh my God, I don't want everybody saying, look, it's rigged. It's a rigged contest. Akronos Mago, he's first place. And yeah, sure, what a contest this is. And the score tanked. And it just went straight down to negative 270. I won't even show on the list now because I have a negative score. So it's like, it's amazing how effective the subconscious mind is. And the subconscious mind is more powerful than the conscious mind. So I really think a lot of it is a matter of, can you control what you really want? Can you control your subconscious mind? For example, I was talking to Chris during the interview, and that day I'd done an intuition challenge. And I got the first, and it was a 50-50. It was the 2-ball challenge. So each time you have a 50-50 chance of getting it right. And I was sitting in the parking lot waiting for somebody, so I'm playing with it, and I'm doing it, and I got it correct. 3rd time, got it correct. 4th time, got it correct. And I look at the statistics, I'm like, did I just get 4 out of 4? Holy crap, that's too good. And it doesn't score it, doesn't keep track of it on the leaderboard unless you do at least 5. And I'm like, if I do the 5th one and I get it right, I'm going to feel a little bit weird. I'm going to feel a little bit like that's too good. And sure enough, on the 5th one, I missed. It's like, okay, so I actually feel like a lot of it is more of controlling what we want and expect and what we think is acceptable. And that is what we are capable of accomplishing.
Okay. And this brings me to just the last question I had for you, which is, it's from me again. How can people boost their skills before, in the best way possible in order to maybe train for this test? You mentioned when your talk was going that sometimes you'll ask questions afterward. Were you drinking coffee? Were you listening to binaural beats? Have you gotten feedback from any of that gives clues as to what works really well?
No, I really haven't. Well, be in a quiet place if possible where you don't have a lot of horrible distractions. If you're sitting in a room and somebody's watching something terribly negative on television, then your brain is probably going to be at least partially listening to whatever's negative on television, and then that might have a negative effect on you. But as far as binaural beats or listen to a particular type of music, I haven't seen any effect for myself on that, but then I'm also not a very audio person. I'm a kinesthetic person, and secondly, a visual person.
Well, I meant like, I know you're tracking the data, right? Are you looking at
Mhm.
what's sort of working for a large group of people? I thought that might be interesting. If maybe you need more data though to get those
I
kinds of
currently need
results.
more data. And a lot of people don't put in notes, regarding what worked for them. So I don't have that answer yet. Hopefully, I will soon.
Excellent, thank you. And Chris, any questions from you? Anything that you want to ask?
Have you been able to tie in the data that you're collecting from, I think it's called the Human Consciousness Experiment, or there's other random number generators that are located around the world that seem to trigger often events like when we had 9/11 in 2001, like it spiked. It would seem like with all the craziness going on in the world today too, with the protests and blah, 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 there might be unusual activity. So I was wondering too, if you go beyond ThetaStream to bring in data from these other random number generators too.
Thank you, Chris. I'm really glad you asked that question. I haven't yet, but Dean Radin, I want to take you out to lunch. I'm a big fan of Dean Radin. He used to be at the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research, and now he's got his own consciousness project, and he works with ION. I love his work, and I would really like to do some data sharing regarding the data that I'm collecting, and maybe get access to some of his RNG data to do exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think that could be really, really telling and enlightening as well. So if he hears that, Akronos is buying, so.
That's right, I'm buying lunch.
There you go.
I would love to buy you lunch, Dean Radin.
Cool.
And speaking of food, I think we should probably wrap up this excellent Q&A session. Unless there's anything else you want to bring up, Chris. I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay, thank you so much, Akronos. Really appreciate
it. Well, everybody, please
all
go to the ThetaStream. If you have an iPhone, we have the iPhone app now. The Android app should be available in the next day or two. We're just waiting on Google approval. It's already been submitted. And the contest, you can enter them as many times as you want. There's no cost to sign up. There's no cost to enter the contest. Enter the contest as many times as you want. And Thursday night at midnight, the contest ends. And then Friday, we give out all the prizes. Good luck, everybody.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you on the panel later today.
You bet.
Thank you.